and welcome to Larry's Legacy Media. Today we are talking to the founder of Larry's Legacy. Hi, Jared.
Hi Jessica, how are you? Yeah, so I guess I'm a founder of something. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for taking the time out of the day to interview me. It is an interview, so yeah.
It is an interview. We're going to go deep.
Yes, yes,
So, to start, tell us about yourself, your name, where are you from? We already know your name, but where are you from?
yes. All right, well, yeah, I'm Jared Johnson, born and raised New Yorker, but I live in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. I have two dogs, a daughter and a wife. Started this nonprofit, Larry's Legacy, in the image of my late father, um, a true pillar of his community. And when he left, I was like, I miss my dad. I need something to do to fill that, like, I can't call my dad right now void. He always said to me and my siblings, I want people to remember me, make sure they know I was here. And one day in 2022, while I was towards the end of the initial wave of grieving, I decided to start Larry's Legacy. Here we are today in our second full year, still making headway to make a difference in the New York City, Washington D.C. area. I'm a diehard Jet fan, so if you ever go to the website, or when you go to the website, the color scheme might look a little familiar.
I did not realize that. That's such a beautiful way to preserve your dad's memory and keep it alive. Can you tell us a little bit about your dad's life and specifically what about his life and career that you want to continue through Larry's legacy?
So my dad was a baby boomer, born in 1947, one of seven children to my grandparents. He was the first in his family to go to college, but that was after a stint in vocational high school, where he got his high school diploma, as well as a skill set in becoming an electrician. So after high school, he went to work for Con Edison, the power company up in New York there, and worked and worked and worked. And Con Edison gave him the opportunity to get his bachelor's degree through one of their employee perks. And he went back to college and graduated from Pace University. Um, Graduated from Pace, and then went back to Con Edison as a procurement manager. So with that, he was, like I said, first to go to college. Went from a hands-on skill trade to a management track, because he was just ambitious and wanted more than working with his hands in a power plant that's hot and just gross. I'm sure you spoke to my sister before, so I don't know if she ever told you the jelly jacket story. Oh, that's a good one. I think that's kind of led toward my dad going into management. My sisters, who are much older than me, went to work with my dad one day in the power plant, and I guess he had to go to the top of the power plant, and they had these jelly jackets. I don't know. I'm an 80s baby. This was like a 70s, early 80s thing. And by the time they got to the top of that power plant, their jackets had melted and stretched. So they couldn't, because it was so hot that the molecules in the jacket just expanded, and their jackets were essentially ruined because of this. And my sisters were miserable. Like, from the way they tell it, they were like, they hated my dad for like 2 weeks. Just the worst person on the planet, because their jackets were ruined. So he quickly jumped into management, And when he got into management, specifically in the procurement department, he was realizing that a lot of the minority vendors weren't making it to the final round to be selected. So he took it upon himself to mentor and help educate those vendors to help them win bids and at least get closer to winning that bid. And that was really huge for him. That was like a big thing. He saw people trying and struggling. He said, "I gotta lift them up because if they make more money, they'll spend it back in their community, and people in their community will see, oh, so and so is doing great. I want to be just like them, and that cycle's gonna continue." That was all before I was born. And then I came along, and my dad transitioned from Con Edison to the New York City Board of Education in the facilities management. And he had that same mindset of like, I'm gonna find people who are trying but can't get across the threshold for whatever reason. He's gonna help them break that barrier. I got to witness that hands on when I would go to work with him. You know, the take your kid to work day. I would go with him and I'd see him mentor people that looked like us, and seeing that as a child over and over, it always stuck in my mind. So now that I'm in my shoes, I kind of see that in society today, and I want to find my people to help elevate. And that's where Larry's legacy kind of gets its, I guess, core value, is helping those that come behind us, especially in the education field, because my parents drilled education into us like nobody's business. So it's like, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna, move forward. And I wish I was more handy because I probably would have gone into one of the trades because a little more freedom in that. But I also understood the value in the trades because that's where my dad got started and then moved up because of that foundation. So I find that to be very important. And looking around, we all need electricians and plumbers and, as my wife says all the time, elevator mechanics. She loves elevator mechanics. I don't know why, but she loves to bring that up. So we need those, but people are shying away from that today. They're going into becoming a YouTube sensation or an Instagram influencer. And why all those are valuable and important because people need that outlet. We still need those trades. And obviously, college education is just as important. But I've noticed student loans are a monster for everyone, but it's even worse for underrepresented students. So any way we can help, we're gonna do that. So I hope that answered your question.
Super helpful. What I loved about the way you describe your dad's story is it weaves all of Larry's legacy's values into it. He started off at a trade high school, so he
Mhm.
started that route, and through that route he was able to be financially stable, and through being financially stable through a well-established organization, he was able to go to college and then move up even further, and then by moving up, he was able to lift other people in his community up so that they had the same path that he had. So I just think his story captures exactly what you're trying to do, and it's a really important mission.
You said that much more eloquent than I did in a lot less words. So thank
No,
you for that.
those words are important. Those words are
Yeah.
important. All right, well, how would you define your job or your career path?
My career path, not what I expected it to be. I went to school for political science and thought, I'm going to be in politics. I'm going to help someone win an election. That was like my goal. Or myself, I'm going to be a US senator. That was not my path. I ended up working in the car industry from like right out of college up until like 30 to my early 30s. when I went back to the school to get my master's in operations and project management, and now I contract for the U.S. government in their IT space. So I help the government kind of bring themselves into the 21st century. They do a lot of things on paper. Now we're making it more digital and more accessible so that they're not stuck at their desks. They can do their job wherever they happen to be without saying you have to be in the office. Wouldn't be here without my master's personally, but you can have this career without it. Um, Lots of certifications out there that help people get to this point without a college degree, but that had to be my route. So, love my job, love my team. Um, yeah, I can't say enough about it other than it's the best decision I ever made because what I do is important, but it's not dangerous. You know, it's just fun. It's fun. I get to interact with people who do the dangerous work, and I make their lives easier so they can make our lives safer.
I'm sure they really appreciate it and appreciate the the possibility of more remote work in the future, maybe for them.
Sometimes depends on how many times I ask them the same questions 5 different ways. So,
And it also sounds like you were able to kind of weave your political science background in with like your more project management ops oriented work. So that's a good example of how education can, it doesn't always directly inform what you're going to do, but it can. Yeah, I think that's something important to comment on that we don't know what our background is gonna how it's gonna inform our future always.
oh yeah, I mean, I know tons of people who say I'm gonna get a degree in this, and then they get in the field and like, I hate this. I hate what I'm doing. I'm gonna go do something else. But because they have that foundation of some sort of higher education, they can pivot quickly to another job. And your job is going to teach you what they need you to know anyway, but having that educational background allows you to critically think and be more open-minded to different ideas a lot sooner than if you, at least from my opinion, don't have that experience.
Yes, because sometimes when you talk to young kids, they're like, why do I have to study this? Why do I have to study history? Like, kids in middle school.
Hmm.
And they might not immediately know that you're studying these topics because they're helping you learn how to think in the future. So this is going like way back in someone's educational journey. Speaking of which, can you tell us more about your educational journey, how school impacted what you do day to day?
Whew, where should I start? Yeah, a lot of
Wherever it sounds like it would fit to start for you.
I think I would start. Oof, goodness gracious, this is a tough question. Yeah, high school really, because I was at one school that closed, and it closed as I was ending middle school. So I was projecting going into high school at the same school, but I had to quickly transition to a new school where I knew people because my school closed, so everyone had to transition to somewhere. So we all got displaced, and I knew some people, but my surroundings, my environment wasn't what I was used to. I was at one school from third grade to eighth grade. I knew where every crack in the wall, every broken tile was. Now I don't know um, anything about the environment or most of the people that I was with. And so having to pivot was a shock for me, but I quickly adapted. Probably by the end of my freshman year of high school, I was comfortable. Um, Made it through high school. Some would say barely, but I made it. And then I went to school, college at a small school in upstate New York, what we would consider upstate New York. It's right there in Orangeburg, right across the George Washington Bridge, and didn't like it there very much. Nothing against the school itself, just the environment wasn't for me. So I transferred to Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. It felt like home to me when I got there, and a lot of people from around the Northeast corridor were there, and I got to meet people, influence people to, join different clubs and make the school community more united. That kind of fits what I do work-wise. Like we have to take something, understand it, talk to computer developers and get them to understand it, and then go back to our stakeholders and say, this is what we can do. And I have to influence them to see it from our side, while I have to influence my developers to see it from our end user side. But uh, having changed um, frequently, I would say, um, because most people go to one school and stay there. When it comes to undergrad, having to change and maneuver, I'm able to lean on that experience to communicate the needs of our end users and the needs of our developers to make their life easier.
You
Yeah.
talked a little bit about this, but how did your family or background shape your career decision making?
My career decision, not so much. Um, but in terms of knowing that I had to get an education, that was that's how they shaped me. Like education is first and foremost on my family's list. Like you go to school, you do well and graduate, and then you get a good job, and then you kind of work your way through. They're that old mindset of get one job at the greatest company in the world and work there for 40 years and retire. Um, but in today's day and age, that's just not how it is. It's just graduate, get a job, and figure it out. Um, but I'm grateful that my parents and siblings were like, keep going to school, keep learning, keep doing all those things. So they shaped me in that sense. Um, I kind of fell into project management. Um, it wasn't my ideal path. I thought I was going to be, some middle manager at some company, just, pushing reports through and managing people. Um, but, life happened and I'm here. So, and I'm grateful for it. But my parents were very much of the mindset of you're either gonna get an education or you're gonna go into the armed services. That was their path for me. It was like A or B, and I'm medically disqualified for the armed services, so I had no choice but to get an education, or to continue my education. And I always thought I'm gonna stop at bachelor's, and that's all you need. And yeah, that's your start, but a master's can really elevate you in terms of earning potential. And that's why I took that jump. And I don't regret it. My pocketbook might regret it because school is expensive no matter how you look at it. But thankfully, I did it without loans. Don't know how, but I did. Um, Figured it out some way or another. That's kind of it. It was no choice in my household. So I guess that's how it was shaped, you know. So,
Makes sense. Oh, that's another thing about that you just reminded me. Overseas schools in general are way cheaper than the United States.
ooh,
Yeah, so we get
that's
really good education here, but it's like you're in debt.
oh yeah, you're in some severe debt, which I have a story for, which I hope we can get to later. Or I can tell it now, whatever.
Go for it. Tell us.
Uh,
Tell. A lot of people can relate to stories about student debt. I
Yeah.
can.
So I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, um, and I was talking about Larry's legacy and how I want to, provide scholarship underrepresented students. And my friend was saying, well, I wish I had just any scholarship. And I was like, well, why? Then they were like, well, I have now $70,000 in student loan debt remaining. And I was like, remaining? Not like that's what you started with? No, that's what I have remaining. I was like, what did you start with? Oh, like 130. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like my head exploded. And we kept talking and they were telling me, oh, well, when are you gonna be done paying that? And like, well, based on the minimum payments, which is what I can afford, I won't be done till 2043. I'm just like 2043. Let's see. Oh, I did it in terms of my daughter. Like, so 2043, my daughter's gonna be a sophomore in college. So what by the time you're done paying for college, your kid you're gonna be paying for your kid to go to school. So you're never not paying for college at that point. You're never gonna live. Like you're never gonna live and breathe. You like gotta make this payment, gotta make this payment. And then you're like, oh, I'm done. Oh no, I gotta make this other kid's payments because you don't want your kid to go through what you went through, so you feel obligated to make that payment. That's absurd. Like that is not okay. We should be able to get the education and move forward. If that's one person, how is anyone going to succeed if you're paying for the next 19 years for one education? If you're in a dual income family and you both have loans, I feel for people. And that kind of story is making me want to push Larry's legacy even more because minority students take out double the amount of their Caucasian counterpart and have to pay back triple the their Caucasian counterpart. So minority students or underrepresented students are already behind the eight ball because of societal circumstance. But then when you add this to it, them bettering themselves, it makes it even worse. People are just climbing and climbing. It's like just rolling the ball up the hill, getting to the top, and it rolling back down every time, every time. So
Then you sprinkle in discrimination in the workplace.
yeah, you can just keep adding and adding and adding, and you're like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah,
And you have
yeah,
less, when you are in debt, you have less freedom. You don't have freedom to leave a job where you might be facing discrimination or you're not able to get promoted and stuff like that. So it affects everything.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you want to leave a job, say, oh, I want to go over there, but I may not go over there and I can't quit my job until I get that job. And that job wants you to, interview at the most inconvenient time because you have to interview during work hours, but you're working, so you have to take a day off from work to go interview for a job that you may or may not get. And yeah, so terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. And it makes it hard for people to create their own thing. Like, because you're like, oh, I want to quit my job and start my own company, but I've got this crippling debt, so I can't take that jump, or don't want to take that jump because they've got that debt. But if a student had a scholarship that would help them, that's one less burden potentially that they have to worry about. So
Yeah, a scholarship for college or some help to get into a trade school, which in
yeah,
itself is taking off a lot of uh the uncertainty and burden of like doing a traditional like liberal arts or just
yes,
regular bachelor's, which, you know, is not for everyone. Like
Exactly.
there are so many majors nowadays that I think you could accomplish the same thing in a trade school or just getting into trade sooner. Um, yeah, I think it's like important to say that like colleges can be great for like training you for critical thinking, preparing you for more things, but it's not like not everyone has to do it. Like you find your own path. There are many paths in education that'll lead to where you want to go in your career. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, bringing up the trades, which is one of the avenues that we support here at Larry's Legacy, is helping students get into the trades um, with financial help, um, because the trades um, provide financial independence sooner than someone who, like us, went to traditional college. You know, you graduate high school, you become an apprentice, you put your work, you put your grunt work in, but you're learning a skill. You can pass your apprenticeship, keep working, but you're making good money. Like you're getting paid while you're learning. Whereas us, we paid to learn, they're getting paid to learn. um, and they can finish their apprenticeship and then go open their own business. Go go open, Jessica's electrical shop, and you can start wiring some apartment buildings, and then the work gets too much, you can hire someone else who went to the same trade school as you, but just finished. You can hire them, and that cycle continues to grow. But not only are you creating financial independence for yourself, you're opening more of a more economic development in your neighborhood by providing a service that will make it easier to see and use laptops and things like that, and you're hiring as well. Like that that's the beauty and the value of the trades. So I want to shout out the trades, from the rooftops, but people shun the trades because I read a stat in like a plumber's magazine. One day I was at the doctor's office and plumber's magazine was there. It said something like from 1990 to 2009, the country pivoted away from the trades to computer science and nursing because we had a nursing shortage. So we have a lot more people focused on tech stuff and nursing and neglecting the skilled trades, and now we have a shortage. Now the average plumber is like 58 years old. That's like 7 years from retirement, and they don't have a backfill.
Mm,
Like we need that backfill so that your plumber, when he comes to the house, isn't, you know, should be retiring and has to get on the floor to look at your toilet and then can't get back up because he's just too old.
yeah.
Like, so sorry,
And
I can
then
talk
now,
about that for hours.
yeah. And then the mirror of that is that like the tech industry and nursing is oversaturated. There's too much
Mhm.
competition. Can you describe a day in your life and your current job?
Oh boy, not really, because it's not consistent. Other than I wake up, I turn my laptop on, and I wait for people to call me. Like that's the very basic, but it's not. I do a lot of research and things on how to um, make technology a little bit easier to understand, and how to incorporate things from what the product owner or the end user wants, and how to communicate that to a developer, and then vice versa. So it's a lot of mental gymnastics for things. That's the very basic that I can say is consistent. But I could be talking about, button clicks and button colors on one call, and then um, on the other call, how are we going to store and visualize data like within 2 minutes of each other? So it's not complicated, but it's not that easy either. So I could, but it wouldn't make sense to anyone.
Okay, a lot of technical stuff. Um,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. If you could speak to a younger version of yourself or to kids who might be interested in your career path or just the kids that you'd like to reach, what would you say?
Try everything. Um, Try everything. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Um, Use your community around you because you don't know where you're going to end up. Like you may see someone and, oh, that's really cool. I want to learn about that. Go learn about it. Go understand it and then see if you're really interested in it. Because that's how you learn to find out what you're good at. Don't just, pick one thing up and say, I'm gonna learn this thing, and then you realize 2 years later, I'm miserable. Like you want to try a little bit of everything. Um, yeah, I think that will be it. Just try everything, master one thing about everything, and then you'll be great at something eventually.
I think that's really good advice, because a lot of the time with young people or when you're young, you have a lot of limiting ideas like, no, I couldn't do that because I wouldn't be good at it or because that's not possible for me. Or, you can kind of cut yourself off from a whole future if you don't explore it. And definitely when I was young, I cut myself off from things. So, and then as you grow up, you realize that life is really long. And the only way you're going to figure out anything is by just moving through it, you know?
Yeah, and that's another thing you mentioned. Just don't give up and try something new. And if you find that thing that you're like, this is it, this brings me joy, as Marie Kondo would say, every day, do that thing and do it well and continue to do it until you're like, I'm bored, I'm gonna go find something new to do, then find that thing and do it well. Because you'll never know where you'll find success. If you give yourself that pigeonhole to fit in, you're either gonna hate it or you're gonna do it and not be successful until someone tells you this isn't for you. And then you're like, but I wasted, 5 years of my life trying to be good at this. That's not worth it. Not worth it. Unless you're gonna be in the skill trade, keep going at
Yeah.
that.
I think
Go with
that's
that.
a good note to end on because I feel like all of us in our lifetime, majority of people are going to be like, oh, I wasted all this time in something. You're
Mhm.
going to just assume you're going to waste time and you're going to have to learn from that wasted time and apply it to something. But we're all going to at one point feel like we wasted time,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Jared, thank you so much, our leader and founder.
Yeah. Those words, with my name attached to it, sound weird, but yes, thank you, Jessica, for having me. This was fun, and we'll do this again when things happen for us, and we'll see where
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah, we're gonna keep interviewing people with who have done either like skilled trades or had a different educational journey and try to listen to those people's stories as models for future students, scholarship recipients, and whatever comes down the line.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Any other closing remarks?
none for me. No, no. Oh, actually, yes. If you liked my story and want to donate, head over to larryslegacy.org. That's Larry with Larry's with an S at the end, legacy.org, /donate. Every dollar amount counts and we'll take it all. And we're a 501(c)(3), so you can get a tax deductible, tax deduction. That's the right word. So thank you for listening, and thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. I like ending that on give the people what they want, the bottom line and the bottom
Exactly.
line and what's in it for us.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Thanks.
thank you.